Call the meeting to order.
Jenkins?
Here.
Hardin? Hahn?
Here.
McKinley?
Yes.
Pestori?
Yes.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing that we have on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Oh, hold on.
Sorry.
Step back. We do have a presentation of the 2014-2015 audit given by Ben Smith. Sorry about that, sir. Tried to skip you.
No, that's okay. Do you want me to just stay seated here, or how do you want me to? Okay.
That's up to you. You're the project here.
My name's Ben Smith. I'm a partner at Strudel Knobloch accounting firm, and I supervised our staff that performed the audit of your city. We've been performing the audit for about 7 years, and Ruth and Sandy and city manager are all very helpful in helping us complete the audit. I don't think you guys have a copy of the audit with you tonight, do you?
No.
Okay.
No.
Did any of you have any questions when you reviewed the audit?
Haven't seen it.
That was, yeah, it was,
We had it.
yeah, that
One of
was,
those deals.
We had it 2 months ago, we approved it.
it was at the last meeting,
That was the last meeting?
and the audit is here.
Okay.
The only question was about the formatting. Some of the formatting was pretty off on the copy we had, or at least the copy I had. So there was numbers here, and so it took a little bit to understand it, so. I'd like that fixed, but other than the numbers looked okay.
So what do you mean the format? The problem is, on government financial statements, they're sort of screwy in how they're formatted compared to normal businesses' financial statements. The formatting's always like that, so I don't know.
They were just out of columns and stuff, so it was, you couldn't track straight down. Things were off in this way, so I'm not trying to do it right. Just a minor particular.
Yep, so you saw it better? Yeah, we got that at the...
Did you have the page in question?
I do believe that was the meeting, was that the meeting he was absent at that we voted on?
Correct, but it was in the packets.
I never got this. I've never seen that till tonight. What meeting? I was gone, first November, is that when they came out? I was gone on another meeting when I couldn't make it back here, but I never saw that in your packet at all.
The one that does a package, you should have gotten one.
And it was on the agenda.
Well, I know we received it in the packets, that was a while back ago, so.
Okay.
I didn't have any questions.
You know, everything lined up, so it looks similar to the
Okay.
previous years.
So I'll just give a few highlights of it then. The first thing is on the auditor's report, just to highlight that you have an unmodified opinion, which means that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects to United States GAAP. So we're saying that your financial statements represent the actual activities of the city, so that's a good thing. Then on the government-wide financial statements, which compiles the city's finances as a whole on an accrual basis, your total cash for the year decreased about $100,000 from roughly 5.8 million to 5.7 million. Total liabilities increased by about 150,000 to $2,446,000, and this was due to an increase in payables of about 300,000 less, some debt reduction during the year. Total net assets, or total net position, went from 11,775,000 to 11,165,000. So this was a decrease in net assets of about $610,000, which you'd be able to see on the statement of activities. And this was solely a function of the expenditures in economic development, spending the TIF fund down. Other than that, there was very little difference during the year in inflows and outflows. So that's the government as a whole. The next part of the financial statements are the individual fund financial statements. You have the government fund financial statements, which has the general fund, the TIF fund, and then other non-major funds. So then after that, you have the proprietary funds, which are your water fund, your sewer fund, your electric light fund, etc. So those would detail the activity in each individual fund. The only other thing that I wanted to highlight, besides the following section of the notes to the financial statements, which would provide more information to explain balances on the financial statement. On page 37, it's your schedule funding progress with the IMRF. This shows, if you look at the funded ratio, which is about the fourth column, you'll see that the city's pension is about 70% funded, which probably isn't too far out of line with most municipalities and most pension plans. So, I mean, that's a function of the market along with pay for retirees. At some point, if the market doesn't increase, funding might have to go up a little bit, but that's totally based on the actuarial assumptions and can change at any time. I just wanted to highlight that. On page 42 are the notes to the budget, the actual section. And we just noted that TIF expenditures were $62,000 in excess of the budgeted amount, of which you were trying to spend down your TIF fund, so that's understandable. And then the rest of the financial statements are just other supplemental schedules and non-major fund financial statements that breaks down the smaller funds, the activity in those. And those are the highlights of the financial statement. We also had a few recommendations that we made for the accounting staff, just different things that they could do to improve the controls and the accounting function, which we made that available in a separate letter, which you should have received.
What staff did you make it to, give it to?
I gave it to the city manager and along with the financial statements, so they should have been dispersed. I don't know if they were, but anyway, the recommendations were pretty minor. We were just talking about making sure that the bank reconciliation is compared to the actual general ledger balances in each fund, because since you get a pooled cash account and the accounting software is fairly complicated, it can get off if you're not careful, so it's always good to make sure that those are reviewed on a monthly basis and it actually agrees to the fund financial statements. We also noted in accounts payable, not all expenditures are booked into the payables, but all payments are coming out of payables, so those balances can get off too, and that needs to be reviewed, just that payments getting posted to the payables account are offset by actual expenditures. And again, that's just a bookkeeping function that we've had to adjust over the years. And then the third thing was just that the library needs to make sure that they provide accurate, up-to-date financial information to the city since it's part of the city. So those were the three areas we made suggestions on.
I don't think we got that one. I don't remember seeing that one.
Okay.
If we could get a copy.
Yeah. I mean, Ruth would have an electronic copy of it.
Okay.
She can print it out and give it to you.
You said the software was complicated.
Yeah.
And now, let me ask you this, can we have another software that's not so complicated to work with? And I don't know when the last time we've updated the software.
It's probably fairly costly, and most government software is fairly complicated, just for the simple fact you have a pooled cash account that's going to a lot of different funds. And it's just something that needs to be stayed on top of just to make sure there's no issue. Ruth does a good job with it. It's pretty easy to get it off, so it's just, she always needs to be vigilant, and there should always be a second person reviewing it, and then if something gets off, to correct it as soon as possible, because the mistake will keep escalating itself. But she's aware of it. I mean, we talked to her about it in the last year or two, and I mean, it's an ongoing process of getting it fixed. And the same software is used in a couple other municipalities that I audit, and the exact same problem occurs there. So I think it's more of a function of the software just not being that easy to use. Because I mean, the exact same issue occurs in other municipalities, so it's not anything that, it's not any weakness on Ruth's part, it's just a complicated thing that it probably takes a fair amount of training to actually get it 100% down.
What is your audit meant to show us?
Our audit is meant to show you that your financial statements are fairly stated, which we help the city create the financial statements just because governmental accounting rules create a very cumbersome financial statement that's sort of hard to prepare on your own. I mean, it's like a 60-page document, and it's not like Farmer City is a big city, so it's a fairly big financial statement. So we assist in preparing that, but all we're really doing is giving our opinion that those financial statements are fairly stated. So we take your financial information, we perform tests to make sure that balances are correct. We confirm cash, we do analytical procedures, we look at invoices, we confirm revenues with the state of Illinois. And that's giving us assurance that your financial records are correct.
The bookkeeper's doing the right job.
Right. So an audit's not meant to detect fraud. I mean, it can detect fraud, but it's not a guarantee. The most important way the best way to prevent fraud is to have controls in place, to have dual controls. More than one person is involved in each area of finances, so not one person.
Do we have that?
Yeah, I mean, Sandy provides oversight to Ruth. So there's two people that are involved in it. So that's
Okay.
So I mean, it would take collusion at that point. The council has a very important role in approving expenditures and actually providing oversight. So in the case like Dixon, where there's a huge fraud, I mean, the auditors were at fault for not catching it for years, but also the board was very negligent there in not providing enough oversight.
Yeah, I would think that during an audit, because we had that happen here at one time, where we had a little bit of fraud, and not that it was a large amount, and it was caught during the audit, because they had to straighten the books out because the books weren't right in the first place. So they had to straighten them out, and once they got them straightened out, they started asking questions, and they started asking about receipts and checks and everything, and where did these go to?
So theoretically, we more than likely would detect it. It's just not a guarantee. I mean, so Dixon would be the prime example. They had an audit. I think the fraud was going on for well over 20 years. I had to audit every year, and it was not discovered. Obviously, the court found fault with the auditors because they were sued for pushing $40 million. So they were also negligent. But if the fraud's small enough, I mean, we're only testing at a certain level. So if the fraud's small, it might not be fraud in our testing procedures. It may be, I mean, because we'll randomly select a sample, but...
That's how this was done. It was something that was randomly selected and then detected at that point. There's two things that were randomly selected, and they found that and questioned where the money was going to, who was this. And it wasn't a vendor, it was on the vendor list, two of them, and so that's where it got caught.
So what we select a random sample of disbursements. That would be one of the ways that we would detect it. And then we're doing analytical procedures comparing expenditures this year compared to last year. And that's another way that it might be caught. But again, you guys reviewing what's going out the door every month is another way prevent it. As long, because if anybody involved in the accounting process knows that there's oversight, they're less apt to chance it.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
This moves us to section 1, consent agenda.
I make a move to approve consent agenda.
Yes. Move to
Second it?
second it.
All right.
Yeah. Try my word for this thing.
Go ahead and call it.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Martin? McKinley?
Yes.
Testori?
Yes.
Motion carried.
There being no unfinished business, we move to section 3, new business. Stephanie's not here this evening, so we'll move to item number 2 in section 3.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 957, amending chapter 110 of the Code of Ordinances, establishing number of available liquor license.
Discussion.
I assume this cleans it up.
Yes.
It looks, when I checked it into the liquor code and everything, so we don't have any more of these things dangling out there that don't need to be dangling out there.
That was the idea behind it. I think that's what you guys wanted.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion? Call it.
Klein?
Yes.
McKinley?
Yes.
Testori?
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Motion carried.
We need to do item number 3.
Okay, I move executive session for personnel discussion, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, and/or performance of specific employees pursuant to Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act, 5 ILCS 102/2C1.
Need a second? I second it.
Yep. Call it.
McKinley?
Yes.
Testori?
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Motion carried.
We are now in executive session. I would invite you all to go in open session, and we are moving on to section 4, the city manager's report.
Several things on here. You can see that I've had some phone conversations with Stuart Drake. Stuart's obviously the owner of Prairie Ridge subdivision. Attached to the back, you'll see a copy of a map. That is an area where we could expand if the city would like to do that. Stuart is in agreement to allow anywhere from 15 to 20 to 30 acres be developed if the city would want to build into that subdivision, actually take ownership of it. If you look at that, and I had questions why the cul-de-sacs had never been finished out there. There was some questions about who owns what land. If you look at the very first 2 streets there, Honeysuckle and Bluebell, those can actually go west. If you folks decided that you did not want to go north, you could go west and extend those streets out. And then you see over to the left of your map that those actually connect. So that's a possibility. 15 acres, depending on the size of the lots, which has been somewhat pre-platted, but depending on the size of the lots, that's going to allow you for some 24 houses or so, if you just did 15 acres. When I first started talking to Stuart, the number that I threw out there was 20 acres. Obviously, we haven't had appraisals, we don't know land costs or anything like that. But Stuart said that if we would like to order up a survey, have 15 acres surveyed, then to go ahead and get that. What I would suggest to you guys, if you're interested in doing this, if we're going to have a survey crew out there, that have them survey 15, have them survey 20, have them survey 30, and see how much land there is. And then if we go this route, and if we negotiate for a price, then you'll know exactly how much land you're going to have. So, is that something you want to move forward with?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If we do the survey, he's gonna sell the land?
Yes.
Okay.
question I have about what you got shaded off,
Yes,
just so I can understand the map and everything. The first one, the road that goes, I guess that would be north, would have any direction on here.
That's George Rock.
Drive.
yes, sir.
And then, okay, lot 33.
Tom Maxwell's house?
Okay, that's what I understood.
Yes, and this is off the big maps that are laying around here. This is just a smaller version of it. So there again, by going north, that's going to get us connected back to the rest of the community just that much sooner. If you want to go west, then tell me to survey west. It's your guys' call.
I guess I'd like to see that, since that shows that street connecting and everything, and I know that there's an issue with the water out there and doing the loop. Is there something?
Yeah, we're going to hit that one here pretty quick.
Okay.
If we go north, can we get connected to Water Street or whatever it is?
Well, we're not going to go that far north though, Scott. I mean, at the maximum, depending on land values and stuff, I mean, you're not going to want to bite off more than 30 acres. But
So going north won't get us connected.
this is approximately 20 acres right here, just by doing some measurements. So no, 30 acres isn't going to get you way back up in there. So it's just a matter of if you want to go north or if you want to go west.
I just want to try and address some of the things that the people out there now wanted. They want that walking path.
I understand. So.
And those items are coming up on the city manager's report,
Right.
so.
Just so I have a clear understanding, which way do we want to go with this, guys?
You mean west or north?
Yes, I mean, if we're going to have Farnsworth out there doing it with the survey crew, which way?
I think, I mean, and I'm definitely open to hear other people's opinion. I think north myself, because the closer we can get to Water Street, the closer we can develop that loop internally as well. But, I mean, I guess I hadn't thought of that when I pictured it before. I was picturing more of a north movement towards Water Street, towards completion there.
If we go west, we can resolve some of the water issue they have now with the drainage and all that. Yes.
Drainage.
Well, I think some of the drainage issues will be taken care of, well...
He's got another item right here.
Which way do we want to go? Do we want to go north or do we want to go west?
You're going to speak here in a second on the water issues.
Yes, sir.
So my question is it first off irrelevant which direction we go, we have a solution, or at least
Not to the water issue, it's not relevant.
it is not relevant?
Correct.
So west or north, it's not relevant to the water issue.
Okay.
I would think
Well,
north.
north then. Yeah.
I think north.
Okay. Okay. All right, so hitting on some other issues, because we've had some citizens that have come in before, and we told them that we were going to work on this. Talking about the water issue, we actually have a meeting tomorrow with a representative from Farnsworth Group. Our plan is, and they're going out to the sewage treatment plant because we've got some new unfunded IEPA mandates. We're looking at a cost of running the water main from 54 George Rock, boring underneath 54, and traveling west back approximately to where Dick Maxwell lives. There's a fire hydrant that sits there. That will create the loop that will provide fresher water for these folks out here that are upset with the quality of the water.
But,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
what about one, because I know Lonnie's here, and he's at the dead end of the street, and the main dead end's down there, so what are we gonna do about him? Because he has an issue with it down there, we're gonna flush the hydrant more?
Yes, and Calvin spoke with someone, and I'm not sure who Calvin, okay, and so Calvin, being new to the community, didn't realize that those were dead ends until I had told him that those were dead ends, and so now he's going to go out there on a regular basis, as long as it's not freezing cold, and we create an ice rink, and he's going to flush those mains until we can get everything situated. Calvin's also talking about raising the chlorine level at the plant, because he has the chlorine level set at a tolerant level so we get quality water out into the mains, but he's also talking about raising the chlorine level because as it dissipates, as it travels, there would still be a pretty decent chlorine residual out there. So he's talking about doing that as well. So So that should take care of the water problem. I get something back from Farnsworth Group, I'll bring you back a price. We're probably looking, it's going to be costly to go underneath the highway, but we're probably looking at $100,000 to pull this off. We would use as much of our labor as we could. Might have the contractor do the digging. Obviously, we can't do the boring. So, as far as the bike path, sidewalk, we discussed that. There again, when I talked with Stuart again, I asked him about that. Stuart's warmed up to that now. So I think before this is all said and done, back there on the back side, where it had been talked about before, looks like we're going to be able to put some kind of a sidewalk in back there. If it is put in back there, then it will be well lighted, so it would be safe to use. The detention basin, whatever it's supposed to be, tomorrow when Farnsworth comes, we'll also be out there looking at that. We don't believe that the elevations are correct on that. That's why it's a tick haven, a mosquito haven, and all that. So we're trying to get some of these issues taken care of. If you look here, you see that Chad Yaden has been signed on to start the process of taking his water licensing. That'll be taking place early January down in Geneva. Keith Moran, our TIF consultant, we're going to have a group phone call with the department heads on Wednesday. All three, streets, water, and electric, we're going to go over any possible deficiencies that will be in this proposed TIF. So when he comes and makes his presentation, and he's thinking sometime in January, so we'll probably have a special meeting in January so he can come in and do that. I have been asked about 3 different locations, and I don't know, this isn't budgeted yet, but 3 different locations where there were water issues. Up on the Depot Road area and John Street, Jerry McKinley had come in about that. Down on East High Street, down around the welding shop, and then down here on West Market Street. Farnsworth Group came in, they looked at all 3 areas, and they've given us a proposal to do the planning, and that's come in at $5,600. And I haven't gone any farther with it because we haven't budgeted for it. So that's not the cure, that's for them to tell us how to engineer it. So, and there again, on the very last page, you'll see where the EPA is now mandating that we chlorinate the water as it's leaving the sewage treatment plant. When the plant was built in the 80s, it was set up to chlorinate the effluent as it went into Salt Creek. A lot of that piping, I don't know why and I don't know when, has been removed. So now we're going to have it engineered, how to put it back in there so we can begin this process. And as you came in tonight, you should see that the electrical crew is starting to change the street lights up and down Main Street. So,
That's really nice.
Any questions to the city manager's report?
The Farnsworth Group, we've been doing business with them for a long time.
yes, sir.
Are we getting the best price out of them for their engineering?
I guess I don't know how to answer that. City's been doing business with them, I believe, back into the 60s. So,
We did business with another one out of Champaign, it was Burns Clancy at one time too. And there's a point they will do something with them. But it's a good question to ask because
Well, I mean, we're doing a lot of business with them.
we do a lot of business
money.
with them. The one thing I don't like, and I think you should do something different, is I'm not quite sure they used to just send us a bill and pay the bill. I didn't really like that. I thought, we should have like a project number or something on those bills so we know what we're paying for.
and I do question them, and it makes them mad when I do, but
That's good.
because you get a bill and it's just kind of a bland statement, you have to call down to St. Louis to find out what it is. But I don't like the bland ones because we do too many projects and they overlap.
But like what I just said there about having a project number, every project we have, like a water would be like W102 or something like that, and in electric, well, they don't do electric, but then street would be ST 561, and that's put on the bill, so they know so we know what they're doing with them, what we're sending the bill for. I think if you don't do that now, maybe I sit there and start implementing something like that, so it's just like a purchase order.
I'm just wondering, because of the large amount of money we spend, a little competition wouldn't be good for them.
Well, and I don't know, Scott, I mean, they have all the files on any engineering that they've ever done for us. So now if we want to go to the west, or let's say we go to the east side, and we want to start laying water main, to a certain extent, we'll start over because Farnsworth already has some of those engineering records, and, you know, so they have all the references that we necessarily wouldn't have. I'm not saying not to shop around, but that would be one reason not to shop around, so.
That is one thing, they do have a lot. Not that I agree with everything that they do, but they
And everything nowadays
background of-
has
not
to
that I
have
disagree
the
with what you're
engineer's
saying.
stamp.
Yeah, at some point we're hostage to them if they have all the information.
It's true.
Everything nowadays has to have an engineering stamp,
I understand.
so.
Do you need direction on that $5,600 then? Are you asking for direction on that, or just?
Well, it would have to come out of the street department. You know, we have those 3 key areas that citizens keep coming in and complaining about, so.
Well, I really don't want to be in another meeting when they come in.
And
here
I don't
We
know
say,
that-
well, we know what, you know, the next step is, but
You
we're
have-
refusing to do it.
You have citizens that are getting water in their basements. You have north end of town that's flooding, and then you have business and yards that are flooding, so I don't know how you could prioritize them. So.
Kind of saturated with mosquitoes. I mean, if you're seeking direction, I'm in favor of the $5,600 to start seeing what this is going to cost ultimately. So, and I mean, does anyone object to that?
No.
No.
All right. So, I mean, you have guidance there.
Okay, the other thing is, there's places in town, I know there's one around the corner from me that's been dug up. It has been patched back, but we have not put any asphalt down. And I'm kind of wondering, it's on Water Street,
Okay.
and I wonder why it wasn't done when we did in front of Jonathan's place down there. There's another one someplace in town, but right now I can't think where that's at. And why these places go, and it's going to go all winter now before we're ever going to get it patched back, and why we don't do these things right now. You know, after we get it done.
So is there a water leak there?
No, there was a water leak there. but
That's fine. There was a water leak
There's a
there.
water leak there, and it hasn't been patched back. There's another one someplace else, but I can't think right where that's at, but that needs to be patched back too. Now, we took care of the one in front of Jonathan's place, why didn't we take care of the other 2 when we were at it?
Well, depending on when they were dug, they may need to settle in. That's why
Oh, they've been there a long time, Scott.
All right.
This wasn't just yesterday.
I tried to.
I've looked at that for the last 8 months.
All right.
In regards to the city manager report, any questions?
No.
Non-agenda items?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
I acquired a letter from the police department for a abandoned vehicle.
Okay.
And the upside is there's no favoritism because it was wrote against me. The downside is in the last paragraph, we're using the dispatch as a phone service. I don't think that's right. I think they ought to be calling City Hall.
If you call the dispatch center, then the call's recorded.
Yes?
And the police chief would like to have any calls going into the police department recorded.
But here's the other problem is the hours that we are supposed to call back are from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And those are not regular office hours for anybody.
Is that per
You're supposed to
dispatcher?
respond back at that time in the middle of the night?
Yes. And it says that if you leave a message, he will return your call during his shift hours, which are 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I don't think we should be calling people at that time of night either. So, it's a good letter. I mean, it's just the details.
Your callback is
Well,
supposed to be between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m.? That doesn't...
Yeah.
The officer that's doing the ordinance violations, your ordinance violation
That's when
officer,
you-
is the 11 to 7 officer. So if you would directly have a question to him about an ordinance violation, that would be obviously while he's working, or else, you know, he'd have to come in if you left a
Oh.
message or something. Now, I'm not saying he wouldn't call you back if you left a message, I don't know.
I mean, he's writing the ticket. It's not something that you could handle or
No.
the daytime police officers could handle or, I mean, it's just an ordinance violation.
I can't, no. You have
I
to do
think
your
that would
own.
be good for something for the chief or someone who works during the day.
Yeah, somebody needs to straighten that out because
You know,
that's,
So that so there can be some resolution.
and I'm assuming he's giving everybody the same letter,
Everybody gets the same letter.
so. Yeah, I just don't think it's reasonable to be doing business from 11 PM to 7 AM. And I called, when I did call the police dispatch, she had no idea what I was talking about. So it's something that Andy needs to work on, Officer Deno.
Other non-agenda items?
Yes. A few months I've been kind of going on about, at one time, about looking into maybe going with the county as far as our police force goes. And I think it needs to be something that needs to be looked at. Whether Andy likes it or not, or anybody in here likes it or not, I think it needs to be looked at to see if it is a more feasible way for us to go and maybe a more economical way. Now, I went down and I talked to the sheriff this past week. I finally had enough time that I could go in and see him. And he wants to make sure that we are not, that everybody up here understands in the police force that he's not coming after until we solicit for this and everything. It is totally me, and I'm asking that we do start looking at this a little bit more strongly. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does, and I'm willing to be part of it, I'd like to have somebody else a part of it too with me, whether it's a council member or even somebody from the city itself, a resident, like a little ad hoc committee and everything on this, and to review it and bring back. We have to know man hours as far as, that's one thing he wants to know, man hours that we want, because that would give him an idea how much cost it would be involved in this.
You gonna say something?
Nope.
I mean, if you're making the request to look into it, I'm obviously not going to step in.
But I want cooperation from here. I don't want to be fought.
I will not.
Not from you.
I would say I will not fight. I try to be very open, neutral. I'll tell you my position would be that we stay with our police department, but I'm not going to stand in the way of any investigation that you may have. My only, or at least appeal at the very beginning would be, at the beginning of even the discussion is that, and I think I had this discussion with you, private, you came by, and of course, to the public, we're within the bounds of law to meet privately, is that my overall philosophy of things is to never do anything based on the size of the city now, but always to base it on the size of the community in which I think that we will one time be. And I think that it would be detrimental to the city of Farmer City to lose a police department that we would need at a later date, especially if the community were to grow 5 to 10%. But that's my view. But on that, I will not stand ahead of this. If you'd like to do this and you have another council person that would begin researching this, I would say more power, and I think that we do need to have, we owe it to the community to have an objective look on this. So, sir.
My position, I don't want to get rid of the police force, but my position is I'd like to see oversight committee of community leaders to guide the police force in their actions and their policies.
How?
Yeah, I don't.
Urbana has an oversight committee. It's a preacher, a businessman. I mean, it's community leaders. And when something goes awry, they meet and review it to determine if it was a police issue, a behavior issue, if it was appropriate.
I'm looking at this thing as far as a money saving thing goes. If we could save money by having this farmed out and not be involved with the personnel issues that we can have and we have had in the past and everything. But I'm going to be objective about this. If it's not feasible for us to do it, I'm not willing to go along with it. But it is, and I think we should take a good look at it. But I don't think we need resistance. I think you need to help me address this thing. I think Andy needs to help me address it and not sit there and fight me on it if I want to do that. And like I said, I went to the sheriff. He does not want to be looked at as somebody who is trying to do this. He is not. He said, we will take a look at you because they do service other communities. And a lot of smaller communities the size of Farmer City or bigger than Farmer City have less of a police force than what we've got or in itself without having the county involved. And maybe some of them do have the county involved. Because I go into a lot of different communities. I go to a lot of different, when we go to Chicago for one, or I talk to somebody that might be on another city council, ask them, how do you handle police force? How do you do these things? I'm always asking how another town takes care of itself. And I just think that we might be able to help save ourselves a little bit more money and everything. There's a possibility, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. If I am, then I'm wrong, I'll admit it. But and with the growth of the town, this town, we've got to have that subdivision. We've got to get Stewart, because we're not going anyplace. We are done.
I'm trying.
We are flat out done. We are landlocked and cannot go any further.
And I think the council needs to be aware, I mean, I think the council is aware of the pending, and I hope, please guys, at least to the growth of the subdivision, in 6 months when we're about to, or a year or whatever it is, and we have a $75,000, I guess, purchase in front of us and we have to make a decision, there are going to be many of the people that are going to question your sanity. And if you're just not on board right now, I'd jump ship right now and just be done with it. It's going to be an uphill battle. I agree with the growth of the community. And again, I'm going to encourage the debate and the discussion. I'll be honest, I struggle with it, with this. I don't think it's financially advantageous for us to keep the pool. Financially speaking. Yep, I don't. Hold on. I'm making my point. I would never get rid of the pool.
Okay.
Because it benefits the community. That's my point. Even if someone comes up to me and shows me different numbers, I'm going to struggle getting rid of the police department that I love to know that they're out there. So that's going to be the
We're not getting rid of, we're
reworking it.
Reworking it, that's right.
Again,
we're not getting rid of anything.
I encourage the debate, the discussion. I don't like the idea of people in Clinton, the police department in Clinton, being, the protectors. I like having the people here. That's just my opinion.
It's not the people in Clinton. It's the county. We're paying taxes in the county for this. It's not the people in Clinton, and that's another thing too. That's a big problem here. This separation of Clinton and Farmer City needs to quit also. We need to work with the county. We don't need to keep fighting the county and everything we do. That's what it's done all my life. It's always been a fight with the county. And they don't come down here because they're not appreciated down here. And that needs to stop. We pay taxes into the county. We need to get our fair share back out of it.
And I agree with that. So and I think the discussion is, we will begin the discussion. And I think that's fair. I think it's absolutely fair. And I will say that, although I'll admit, not when I first met you, but I do appreciate your intelligence and at least your history. So we will begin the discussion on that. Are there any other non-agenda items? We do have a couple of public comments. I think that I am going to set aside any non-agenda items that I had. The first one that we had is Lonnie. You have the floor.
I'm here as one who volunteered at a recent neighborhood meeting to do something about the water in our subdivision. We have an unhealthy and unsafe situation with our water in the Prairie Ridge subdivision. It has a terrible smell, particularly in hot weather, and it often has an oily feel. On Monday, November 23rd, our water and sewer superintendent, Calvin Flory, spent several hours analyzing our subdivision water. City water enters from the field on the north end of George Rock Drive and flows into 3 dead-end pipes. These 10-inch pipes stop at the end of Bluebell Lane, the west end of Honeysuckle Lane, and the intersection of George Rock Drive and Route 54. Calvin's work revealed that the chlorine levels at the west end of Bluebell Lane were 0.1, and later another sample was 0.2, instead of the more acceptable reading of 1.5 to 2.0. This is unhealthy and unsafe. He spent several hours providing an immediate but temporary fix as he flushed all 3 pipes. Also, he mentioned that he would bump up the chlorine levels so that a more proper level might be reached. It is a reasonable conclusion that we have conditions that allow bacteria bloom in all 3 of these pipes. The water is stagnant or moving very little, and it is coupled with a lower than acceptable chlorine level. No one knows the short or long-term effects of consuming and using this polluted water. A more permanent fix for 2 of the 3 streets is accomplished by connecting a pipe from the west end of Bluebell Lane to the west end of Honeysuckle Lane. This would allow the water to circulate, preventing stagnation and hopefully to bring more properly chlorinated water to the subdivision. We are grateful for Calvin's willingness to put this project on his list for the spring of 2016. This project will be a part of his regular city maintenance program. It will not need TIF funds, is what he told me. However, this does not address the correction for the 7 residences and the doctor's office south of Honeysuckle Lane on George Rock Drive. That pipe needs to be looped into the city's pipes that run along Route 54. That solution will need an engineer and is probably a good project for the TIF funds. Now there is a second but related problem with the drainage ditch on the west side of the subdivision, particularly on the west side of my home at 1455 Bluebell Lane. The ditch has a low spot that captures and retains water, whether it's from rain or from hydrant flushing. It is seldom dry. It is the source of many mosquitoes. The trucks that spray insecticide cannot cover this ditch. It would be a practical and less expensive solution to take the dirt from the spring water pipe project that I just mentioned above and use it to level the ditch so that it would properly drain and alleviate the dangers of mosquito-borne diseases. We are really grateful for Mr. Flory's responsiveness and patient willingness to find both short and long-term improvements. His work with us will correct and establish healthy and safe drinking water for years to come.
Mr. Sutton, thank you, sir.
Hope that's in the record so that we say we got a serious problem out there and we don't know how it's affecting us. Please help us correct it.
Agreed, and I hope that you at least have seen in tonight's discussion that this is something that's on our hearts, and we appreciate your...
Don't have a feel about your heart. I want to see some action.
Well, and we have
dig a
talked
pipe.
about,
Touche.
we've talked specifically about things we're going to be doing, so appreciate it.
Yeah, you are. Jeff Zong with the newspaper. Okay, thank you.
The next gentleman to speak is Mr. Knox.
Hi, I'm Chris
Hold
Knox.
on, that's not, I saw this on TV.
It's not moonshine.
Okay, nice meeting.
My name's Chris Knox. I live at 1205 George Rock Drive. I'm one of the houses that the little pipe will not affect in terms of helping my water. And I brought you a sample of my water. So I'd just like you guys to take a whiff of that, if you like.
Absolutely.
This is what I deal with on a daily basis. A nice smelly glass of water, so when you take a shower.
How does it smell?
Huh?
How does it smell to you?
Kind of like a rotten egg sulfur. It's from the algae bloom.
You won't find that because it's already escaped off. I mean, it doesn't smell to me right now, and I'm not saying you don't have
Yeah,
to,
well, I invite you guys all to come over while one of our people take a shower. You can smell it, but it just reeks.
The high, no, you said it smells like eggs,
Yeah, it's a high sulfur smell. It's from the algae bloom.
which is
and we've
high
had
sulfur,
people-
right? That's, okay,
Yeah. And we've had that tested several times, and it's a gas that comes off of the algae bloom.
okay.
I personally put a half a gallon of bleach in my hot water tank, and it takes care of it for a few weeks. And then I do it again, and it takes care of you for a few weeks. And so the fix that you're suggesting, I would say that it better be the right fix. And so I would recommend you guys really do some research on this to make sure it really fixes the whole thing, because that's back on you.
Do you have the gas hot water heater or electric one?
It's a gas.
You ever take that rod out?
I've replaced the rod several times and put it back
Put the rod
in.
back in?
The rod, knowing what the rod does, it reacts with the soft water if you do have a water softener.
Yeah.
That's where that part of the gas comes from. Now, you can take it out, you can cut them off. You do void the warranty in the hot water heater. Used to do that myself, but I don't do that anymore. I'm not buying somebody a hot water heater if they come back and see. But the rod will dissipate after a while. It'll just deteriorate. It'll just go down and it comes down to about...
It'll add to that.
It'll add to some of that, but you take it out. That's not the reason why.
That's not the reason why that
I know,
smells so
I
bad.
just asked.
Yeah.
That's a whole different ballgame. It's another thing altogether.
But we've been dealing with that water issue out there for several years, and every time we called the city, they always said it was fine. So I'm glad that his results finally showed that we've been dealing with the problem out there, it's never been addressed. And so I encourage you guys to really look into it and make sure it's the right fix. Because we've been dealing with this issue, and it's, like you said, it's a health issue, and just a quick fix of just draining the flushing the hydrants and stuff like that is not where you guys need to go. And it needs to be quickly and promptly addressed.
The other thing I'll ask, which I don't think you can give me an answer to this, but I'm going to ask it just to be asked and everything, is and maybe you can do it out there, is an injection point for the chlorine. It would be a chlorine house that would be set up, and you'd have an injection point out there. Now, I've never seen anybody ever do that, but that's not something that can't be done, because we are a long ways away from the treatment plant, and to get there, of course, it does dissipate once it does get there. If you can start out having 5 parts down to the treatment plant, and by the time it gets out to them, it could be down to 2 parts, so it's going to be...
Right, and as you know, Randy Matthews has a water problem, and we're talking about we might have to do that out there in that field somewhere, so that has been discussed, not out for there, but... And if that water main was to come down, if we went west, you would have that water main in somebody's backyard when you go west, but not a major issue, but that's something...
You could put it down in the street that's designated on there?
Yes,
Because
but
right
that
next
would
to
be
Lonnie's
way
house,
down
isn't that supposed to be a street in there?
If we did that, Willard, I don't know that we would go down as far as what this is platted. If you go back and look at that. If we went, you'd have to go clear down here because that water main would end up way down here. We're here right now. Okay?
Yeah, that's where you're talking about putting the pipe in for recirculations at the end?
No. I'm talking about down here and bringing it back into town so this water is moving, so.
Well, if these
So
are,
if
if
we-
these
if we
are
went to-
dead
So
end
we can
pipes here,
draw water.
Okay.
So you always have that draw.
If you went west, you'd still have the same, you'd still have the same issue. You still have a dead end side. You still have a dead end.
Well, you could have, but you're going to, once you get down at that street, you're going to sit there and you're going to loop it at that street. Then you're going to tie those things in
Right.
and loop it around and keep moving it and everything.
I don't know water, why can't you loop it at the back side of the street too? I mean, where it comes in, and then you have a loop there.
I believe it already is. I don't think those are dead ends. I think it comes down that ditch, but I don't know for sure, so.
And again,
But it's still dead ends.
I'm not gonna micromanage, I just wanna be able to look at this citizen and say, it's not just on our heart, but we want it done too.
Who
All right,
would
so-
know that? Would Farnsworth know that?
Yes.
Then I would
And you're meeting with
Well,
them
they'll be there
tomorrow, right?
tomorrow. This is one
find out
thing we're
if that is,
discussing.
that those things are looped in some way, but, yeah, but the flushing of the mains, of course, wasn't done for so long, but now I hope that we continue on that. If it needs to be flushed down there, flush those suckers out and keep that cleaned up. But then the chlorine residual too, that's another thing too. Chlorine residual has never been very high in this town. It's always been, and I know how chlorine works. It dissipates after it's been in the pipe so long. It sits there, it's got to keep moving, you got to keep knocking it in there, and you'd have to put it in a pretty strong rate out there to power at this treatment plant to probably get the flow through.
Well,
But if we can do it somewhere down the line, that would be good too.
I'm looking forward to hear what Farnsworth Group has to say on this so that we can get this resolved. So,
I just have one question on that.
Yes, sir.
Not knowing how all this stuff really works is what gets bidded out for bids and what doesn't. I know you guys go with this engineering company and stuff like that on a regular basis. Have we ever opened up anything to bids and have people come on and bid it? I mean, we paid $25,000 for them to come in and survey sidewalks, which should have been done the first time when they developed the subdivision. It should have been in the original plans, but I just was curious as how that gets settled to the contractors to go out, and then if they ever go out to bid.
he did, to answer the question, at least with the engineer, in fact, I should just shut my mouth and let the city manager answer this question, but go ahead and
I
answer.
usually say that.
Yeah, usually just-
Well, we have Farnsworth Group as our engineers. As you've heard, they've been doing work for the city since back in the 60s. By statute, anything over 20,000 has to be bid out by state law. So, $5,600 to have some engineering done. You don't go out there and...
So when the
shop.
sidewalks happened, the rumor that we heard was 25,000, was that the bill for the sidewalk survey?
26.
26,000, so that
That would
get
be-
bidded out?
That would be total for any engineering services that to work out there, if they did everything. If they had to do topography, if they, there's just a lot of different issues that they would have to do.
So was the bill when they did the sidewalk survey a month ago at our subdivision? How much did that cost?
We haven't gotten the bill yet.
So are we assuming that bill will be under,
I will say.
that bill will be under $25,000 or will, I mean, I guess my point is
Did that go out for bid? Is your
did that go out for bid? It
did
should
not
have
go
gone out to bid.
It did not go out for bid,
And
correct?
if it's gonna be that price of what we hear, the rumor, should have gone out for bid.
Well, it didn't go out for bid because we used Farnsworth Group for our engineering.
But if it's over $25,000.
That was
by
a
law-
question, that was a question that the council person also raised, so. And I'm hearing Larry's argument, which sounds like a very good one. Obviously, if you have a medical problem, you like to trust the doctor that you've always been doing a relationship. You get a big medical diagnosis, you want a second opinion at that time. If we work with an engineering company that knows our place, they have the lots, we don't have to go out and have new engineering done on top of that, which would be more expensive. Don't necessarily do that, but the councilman has already raised that same question. Should we, and we had another councilman who wholeheartedly agreed, I have no objection to it too. The big ones, we should be doing that. So it's a good objection, and I can't be an apologist against it because well, we're on the same page. So, anything else? Sir, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate all your help. I appreciate some of the stuff you guys are looking and doing in our subdivision, so thank you for that.
We definitely
Thank
want to
you.
fix it.
All right, okay.
Any other non-agenda items? Oh, no. I'm off my game here. Motion, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call it.
McKinley?
Yes.
Testori?
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
We need a letter from me.